Hello and welcome to the channel, ladies and gentlemen. Now, obviously, a lot of people probably saw this and was like, Mr. H, why are you talking about this? What's going on? Well, here's my video on it. We're going to deep dive on this. So Hellraiser rights could revert back to the creator, Clive Barker, in 2021. Now, this is something to really dive into for a few reasons. Why this is even happening, because that's important. The mechanics behind it, the motive behind it, and also, I guess, like off the back end of it, like why it would be good or bad. I know a lot of people will probably look at this on face value and go, yes, great. More for this. Absolutely epic. Why not? But I do have an opposing view on that. And I want to explain it and really get it out in the context-wise. Now, this is all horror related. This is on Bloody Disgusting. You'll find a link to this down below in the description box. And also what you'll find down below in the description box is a link to the GoFundMe page to my original high concept horror fantasy film, which I am making. A lot of people will know me for Hellraiser stuff, but I am making my own film now. It's called Black Fields. As I said, it's a fantasy horror film. Think Conan blended with Hellraiser, blended with The Thing. All manner of good, gory deliciousness, and a bit of sprinkling of toxic masculinity on top, and also some heart. So yeah, I'm making my own film. Check it out down below. I'm crowdfunding for it. I actually believe that's the future of filmmaking, and if you want to be in for a chance of winning an absolutely epic ornamental prop, which is inspired by the props in the film, the weapons, then check it all out. It's down below. But let's dive right into this, shall we? So like I said, this is on Bloody Disgusting. And yeah. So what's this around, right? Well, it's to do with something which was changed with respect to copyright law, which allowed creators to have, you know, basically the rights back. They could get the rights to their property back. And it makes sense, right? I think it makes perfect sense that there's the opportunity to do that. There are a few instances where you just think, well, like how did you get away with that? Like, how could you possibly sell the rights to that? And you know, there are definitely some instances where it would be great if the creators got it back. Absolutely great. Like Terminator, for instance. There was a discussion over Gail Ann Hurd could get part of the rights back to Terminator, right? Because she's co-creator. And how that could help and benefit the Terminator franchise moving forwards. And the same could potentially be said for this, but I personally don't think so. Now, I also have a lot of evidence to back up my point, so please don't instantly just go and dislike the video, because I really want a lot of people to kind of take this on board. And again, I'll leave all the evidence to it as well, because I think it's really important. So let's get into the article, and then we'll kind of discuss the finer points of it, right? Many horror franchises are about to enter rights hell thanks to changes Congress made to copyright law in 1976. So while Friday the 13th is at the forefront of the conversation, with screenwriter Victor Miller engaging in a lengthy legal battle with director Sean Cunningham's Horror Inc., dozens of other properties are in the midst of rights shifting hands back to their creators. Now, Friday the 13th Part 3 star and entertainment lawyer Larry Zerner, who has been keeping us all informed as to the process behind the Friday the 13th lawsuits, just dropped a mega bomb on Twitter. Now, this is interesting. For those of you who like the Friday the 13th lawsuit, now, Real Clive Barker has sued for a declaratory judgment that he can terminate his 1986 transfer and get back his rights to the Hellraiser franchise. And here it is. Okay. Interesting, right? So he has actually filed. He's entered into, basically saying, I will sue. I want those rights back. So the article then moves on and says, yes, you read that correctly. Clive Barker, who created the Hellraiser franchise, as well as several Cenobites, including Pinhead, has sent a notice of termination to producers and plans to grab back the rights to his book, The Hellbound Heart, which is what was the source material for it, right? Zerner adds, this interesting note. Barker's termination, if effective, would not take place until December 19th, 2021. If the producers can get a new movie out before then, they would legally be in the clear. Just nothing new after that date. So they could make a movie straight away, right? Now, there's a few things to differentiate here. I don't believe, and I'm going to reach out and discuss this, I don't think this impacts the TV rights at all. I don't think so, anyway. I believe it's a completely different deal. It's different. I believe it's a different form of copyright, as far as I'm aware. And it was a different kind of agreement that took place. And I also think that he would have to file again for those rights to come back. So I don't think it's going to affect the TV, but I'm going to look into it because I do have a source attached to the TV production of the Hellraiser reboot on TV, whatever you want to call it. Now, the other element is, with respect to the movie that they were looking to do, that was a Spyglass Media Group, or Media Entertainment, with David Goyer behind it, and then also the Ritual director and some screenwriters. I don't think they're going to be able to get a movie out, right? But I also don't think... I think Clive Barker will find it difficult to grab the rights back. And I'll kind of get into that in a second. I don't think it's as clear cut and dry as, oh, he can just get them back. But I think he's going to struggle. I think they won't get the movie out in time because I don't think they don't have a distributor, right? They only have producers. They don't have a distributing studio. So the chap who wrote this article, which is a good horror writer, which is Brad Miska, he reached out to Zerner, who helped clarify how it's similar to Friday the 13th. Barker would get back his rights in the underlying story he wrote, and also the rights in first script. He would not get any rights in things that were in any of the sequels that were added. So I guess similar to part of the loopholes that were, I guess, which allowed us to get the Child's Play movie last year now. You know, the new Chucky Child's Play movie, and how that's still kind of continuing along, right? If you recall, Paramount Pictures were rushing to get a new Friday the 13th off the ground, and was even in pre-production when everything was abruptly shut down. Now, interestingly, David Bruckner was also long attached to a new Friday the 13th, who is currently developing the new take on Hellraiser for Spyglass Media. The project has been fast-tracked until the ongoing pandemic put a wrench in Hollywood's collective wills, which is true, but they still don't have a distributing studio. They only have production. So they actually don't have a way of releasing it, even if they make it. Things could be even more complex, as this April it was announced that HBO has ordered a Hellraiser series with David Gordon Green directing the pilot, and Michael Dougherty and Mark Verheiden penning the screenplays. Now, I don't think that is... I don't think it's part of the same thing. I know that the Hellraiser TV series does have the rights to the book, but on TV. So I think they're in the clear, I think, and I need to clarify it, because this is interesting stuff. And, as part of making this video, I couldn't clarify in time. Like, it's just not possible. So I'm waiting on it to come back. It's still unclear to us how there are two sets of rights to Clive Barker's The Hellbound Heart. I can tell you that. The chap who owns them bought them, and that was it, basically. He bought the rights to the TV. That's how he had them. And if either of the aforementioned projects will be affected... it's also worth noting that Barker could make a deal with Spyglass or HBO or anyone else for that matter prior to the rights being returned to him in 2021. In short, there's a lot of implications here, and I expect many updates over the next year and a half. If anything, let's just pray that nothing complicates things and Barker can do whatever he likes without having to go into litigation. Now, okay. So let's see how the TV rights are different, right? The TV rights were purchased like years and years ago, and they were sat on. They didn't have like a timeline like movie rights do. Movie rights tend to have a timeline before they revert back to the original copyright holder. The TV rights are different. I don't think the TV rights will be affected, but I do need to clarify it. Now, I don't think Barker is the right man for this, and I know a lot of people really hate me for it. But there's a few reasons as to why. Why is he doing this? It's just for money. Again, I say that, I firmly believe it is just for money. He doesn't actually have the means to make a movie, right? He doesn't have a lot of money. He's not a hugely wealthy individual. He doesn't make things. He sells a lot of his art, and he sells a lot of scripts as and when he needs to, but nothing ever actually gets into production. And he doesn't have the means to make a movie, right? If this wasn't just for money, he would have already sold other scripts to movie studios, right? To make films, right? He would have. And he has done that in the past, but they weren't made because they were terrible. And obviously that's subjective, but ultimately they weren't made, so they can't have been particularly great. And obviously, again, I know that's subjective, and I know there's plenty of movies that are terrible that are made, but I have a few of them, and I've done them on this channel. Right? Clive Barker's long-rumoured and massively hidden Hellraiser reboot script and treatment. I've got them, and I've sorted them out on the channel. I've discussed them. You can find them on the channel. I'll try and leave them linked down below. But he turns Frank into Pinhead. He turns Le Marchand into Pinhead. Pinhead wears white. There's vines that come out. It's all very pointless. The changes were just so he could sell a script. Now, Clive Barker is very, very good, and he's a genius at what he has created. But he's not been able to replicate that success. Again, if he had, we would have seen more Clive Barker things. But sadly, he hasn't. And he, like I said, he's very, very good at what he has created. But he's doing this because I firmly believe he's doing it because he just simply wants the money. He just wants to sell the rights back off to someone else and make some more money with it. So it'll literally be a case of... and this happened recently with James Cameron and Terminator, believe it or not. So he got the rights back, and then he sold them off again. And this is the same thing that will happen with Clive Barker. He will get the rights back, and he will just sell them off again to someone else to make a movie, so he can make some money from it. That's all. He doesn't have the means or the connections to make a movie. And even if he does, what's it going to be? It was a movie based off the Hellbound Heart. If he wanted to make a movie and he wanted to be creative, he would have done it already. He would have made a good script and he would have done it. But he hasn't. Therefore, logic would dictate and, narrow it all down. It's just because he wants the rights back so he can sell it and make money. It's just a move to make some money. It's sad, really. It's a shame. And it is a shame. And I say that because, well, yeah, it's just a shame, really. And he could make so much other things if he chose to, right? You got the Tortured Souls novella thing. Do something with that, for God's sake. But he hasn't been able to. He's not been able to do anything, to get anything off the ground. And ultimately, that's kind of on him. So there you go. There's my thoughts on it. I don't think that Clive Barker's the man for this as well, because ultimately as well, remember, if he's got creative control of Hellraiser, you need to remember that everything that Hellraiser that you like, he sought to destroy when he made the follow-up to the Hellbound Heart, which was the Scarlet Gospels. Everything that was built up in the Hellraiser universe was destroyed in that book. So if you like Hellraiser, probably best that you look into that and say that, well, Clive Barker is probably not the man for the job, because he will seek to absolutely destroy it. And again, it's no disrespect to Clive Barker, because he's very, very good at what he does, but he's not been able to replicate it any further than the few success stories that he's had. And it's a shame, really. Tragic, I guess. But I don't want him to have it back. I think that the TV rights, being with who they are now, are in the best possible situation to get something really good, because they're all fans. Clive Barker's not a fan of Hellraiser, as evidenced by the Scarlet Gospels. So anyway, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Please do let me know down below in the comments. I know that this will get some kickback because it's somewhat controversial, but I think it's really important just to have a consideration about it. There's a lot of evidence to indicate that he's definitely not the man for the job. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. As always, if I missed the H, take care.